It's deadline day for media outlets to sign the Pentagon's new restrictive press access rules. It states that reporters cannot solicit or report on any information the Department of Defense does not authorize. News organizations across the board, including CNN, as you might imagine, rejected signing a pledge like that. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called Pentagon press access a, quote, privilege, not a right, and responded to outlets who aren't signing it with a single waving hand emoji. Joining me now, CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter. Brian, what should outlets expect today? Obviously, especially those who are saying we're not signing this because you are basically telling us what we can and cannot report on or say.
Yeah, this was originally described a number of weeks ago as a pledge. There were some revisions after negotiations with media outlets, but newsroom leaders and media lawyers looked at this document from the Pentagon and said this was simply unacceptable. It's an infringement on First Amendment rights. It has the potential to criminalize acts of journalism because so much of what reporters learn about the military, some of it comes from leaks. Some of it comes from sources who are not technically authorized or allowed to provide the information, but they're sharing that information in the public interest. This new document, this new so-called pledge, would potentially criminalize that kind of coverage and put journalists at risk of prosecution. So that is why so many news outlets are standing up and saying they will not sign the papers today. The Pentagon issued a 5 p.m. Eastern Time deadline today, and they say any journalist who has a press pass for the Pentagon complex who does not sign the new paperwork, they'll have to turn in their press pass by 5 p.m. tomorrow, meaning 5 p.m. Wednesday. This means that essentially all of the beat reporters who currently have the ability to enter the Pentagon complex, to go up and speak with spokespeople in person, to attend press conferences if they're ever held, that those people will lose their access. They'll have to turn in their press passes. But it is remarkable, Sarah, the show of solidarity that we are seeing. Dozens of media outlets at this point all agreeing they're not going to sign this paperwork. They're not going to go along with these restrictions. They are going to choose to hand in those press passes instead.
I'm curious about, when you look at this board here that shows you all of the different organizations, one that stands out there is Newsmax, which has been very pro-Trump. What are the right-leaning publications doing in all of this?
It's one of the most important details here. Newsmax has said it is not going to sign this pledge. It wants some sort of resolution, but it's not going to sign the pledge as it stands now. And I'm told Fox News is taking the same stand, and Fox, along with the major broadcast networks, is going to come out later today and say it's not willing to sign along and play along with these rules either. CNN, of course, this network already said last week that it wasn't going to go along with these rules. Let me show you first CNN's statement saying CNN's mission to report on fully and fairly about the U.S. military and the Trump administration will continue regardless of physical access to the Pentagon. We will not be deflected from our duty to hold all three fairly and fully to account, and will continue to report on the actions and decision-making processes of the U.S. government without fear or favor. Newsmax in a statement saying much the same thing. So it is telling, we're seeing some of these pro-Trump or conservative outlets say that they will not sign the pledge. At the same time, major mainstream outlets like the AP, CNN, Reuters, the Wall Street Journal, they are all rejecting this edict from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
What legal action are you thinking that these organizations, as they're looking at all of this, might take?
Well, that's the next possibility. Yeah, that's the next possibility because this deadline is today. The press passes have to be handed back on Wednesday. We may see legal action by news outlets down the road. But one thing is clear. News outlets like CNN are going to keep covering the Pentagon, even if we're not allowed inside the building.
Yeah, and covering it because also the press is doing this to inform the public. The public pays the taxes for the Pentagon to exist. Lots of complication there. Thank you so much, Brian Stelter, for being here with us early this morning.
Today marks the deadline to sign onto the Pentagon's new restrictive press access rules. If the pledge is not signed, reporters must surrender their press passes by tomorrow. So news organizations have broadly rejected signing this new pledge, I want to say, including CNN and notably MAGA network Newsmax. They say the new rules say reporters cannot solicit or report on any information that the Defense Department does not authorize. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called Pentagon press access, quote, a privilege, not a right. And to all the outlets who aren't signing on, Hegseth's response was simple, a waving goodbye emoji. The group chat is back. I want to talk to our reporter first. We know this happened with the White House Press Association in terms of the White House sort of saying, listen, we want to weigh in on X and Y. These are our decisions. In those cases, the Press Association sort of had less they could do to fight back. Why do you think news organizations drew a line here?
I think with this situation with the Pentagon, there's real concerns about the language in this agreement that the Pentagon is trying to have reporters sign that basically calls for them for reporters to acknowledge that if they ask for any information that was not pre-approved for release, that they may be committing a crime, that it's soliciting a crime to reveal even unclassified information.
Right, so even if you find out secret things, you got to come to us. If you just, I don't know, get accidentally sent a text and added to a group chat, you can't report that either.
How do you know if the question you're asking has been pre-approved for release? That's not a thing that is communicated to reporters.
Why do you think it's significant that the news organization said no?
Well, I also think Fox is saying no, too. So
Yeah,
there's not
that's why
going to
I'm
be very
bringing it
many
up.
people there. But I think this goes back to the lawyers. You're right. I mean, the criminal charge, if you leak this or if you report on this information is I think, the sticking point. I mean, you would know better than me. But it is unprecedented.
Yeah. Also, every major, I feel like, news story of the last 100 years came from defense reporters reporting on wars, covert operations. Like, this is kind of the heart of what we do.
Let's build off of that point, which is there's more money spent in that building around our defense than all of our government combined, I believe. Don't hold me to that number, but a ton of stuff. So the press is there literally, whether it's the right or the left or the middle, I don't care, but this is where most of our money is. This is the defense of our country. This is where reporting may be the most important because there's just so many resources. That means you have folks talking about, I remember the golden toilet seats over at the Pentagon, or some spy thing, or some bomb thing, like all the things that are titillating to newspapers, but also news that we need. This is the last place we should be coddling that down.
If they're not classified.
If they're not classified. And also, I think at one point when the Supreme Court was weighing in on some of these issues, there was mentioned in the ruling that our sons and daughters go to war, and we have a say and a right to know the how and why that happens.
It was an almost unimaginable number. More than 5 million Americans turned out in small towns and big cities all across the country for those No Kings protests against the Trump administration back in June. That No Kings Day protest, that one day in June, is considered to be one of the 3 largest days of peaceful protest ever in U.S. history. There were so many demonstrations on No Kings Day in June that when we covered them here on this show the following day, we had to show them in batches of 20 to even scratch the surface of how many of them there were. Well, now the second No Kings Day is just around the corner. It's this Saturday, October 18th. And the organizing effort around it so far indicates that it might be even bigger this time around. In June, for those huge protests, they got like 2,100 different protests. This time for Saturday, organizers are expecting more than 2,500, even more than we saw in June. Joining us now is Ezra Levin. He's co-founder and co-executive director of Indivisible, the group that has helped lead the organizing for the No Kings rallies. Mr. Levin, it's nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Great to see you, Rachel.
What are you expecting for Saturday?
I'm expecting it to be huge. I'm expecting it to be boisterous. I'm expecting it to be joyful. It's going to be the place to be, Rachel. I mean, it really is. I hope people are, we're doing big things here, right? We're collectively fighting for democracy. That's big, that's serious. Trump is saber rattling, and that can be scary. But fundamentally, what this is about is everybody coming together and demonstrating we don't do kings in America. And they're going to have funny signs. There's going to be chanting. There's going to be dancing. There's going to be singing. We want this to be a place where anybody can come out. And it doesn't matter your ideological persuasion. It doesn't matter who you voted for before. It doesn't matter if you've never protested before. This is a place for you if you believe we don't do kings in this country.
We're in this moment where Republican leaders, particularly House Speaker Mike Johnson, but also other Republicans, have tried to really fearmonger about the No Kings protest. He said it was a planned Hate America rally, which made me laugh out loud. But I have to ask, obviously they're trying to scare people into not protesting or trying to make it seem like a scary thing. On the other side, we've got protests in Portland erupting into dance parties and like everybody with Cher on the boombox and like dancing inflatable frogs and everything. How do you, what do you make of the Republican effort to really demonize protest against Trump?
Look, on the one hand, I welcome the free publicity. I'm glad they're talking about what will be the largest peaceful protest in modern American history coming up on Saturday. And it's also funny that they can't actually say no kings. They've got to make some other name up for it because they understand it. They say no kings. How is that objectionable?
Right.
How could anybody say that that's anything other than the most American thing since apple pie? But I do think we have to hold two things in our head at the same time. One, anybody who's been to a protest this year that's been organized by Indivisible or No Kings has seen moms and grandmas and kids and dogs and funny chants, and it was a feeling of joyous power out in the streets. And on the other hand, we've got an authoritarian regime who wants to crack down on free speech. So we should show up in force, and we should take care. We should attend the security training briefings. We should attend the how to de-escalate briefings and trainings. We should do that work so that if anything happens at these protests, we're ready to do it. But if your First Amendment rights are under attack and you decline to show up because of those threats, you don't have First Amendment rights. So if anybody is out there watching this and is like, well, I don't know, I've never been to a protest, or I'm hearing a lot of gnarly stuff from this regime and maybe I won't come out, let me tell you, it's going to be fun, it's going to be powerful, and it's going to be part of history.
What's happening with the Pentagon right now isn't just another press story. It's a full-on stress test for American democracy. The Department of Defense is demanding that reporters sign a new pledge saying they won't solicit or report on any information the Pentagon doesn't authorize. That isn't journalism, that's government propaganda, and the media knows it. That's why CNN, Fox News, Newsmax, Reuters, The Wall Street Journal, and basically every serious newsroom is refusing to sign. When outlets on the left and the right are united like this, it's not about politics, it's about power and who controls the truth. This pledge is designed to chill real reporting. If a reporter gets information from a whistleblower or a leaked document, under these rules, just asking about it could be treated as a crime. Think about that for a second. Abu Ghraib, the Pentagon Papers, Afghanistan Papers. None of those stories could have legally been reported under these rules. It's not just unconstitutional, it's a deliberate attempt to muzzle the press when the stakes are highest. The Pentagon claims press access is a privilege, not a right. Sure, they can revoke a building pass, but they can't rewrite the First Amendment. Journalists don't need permission to do their jobs. If anything, this move will push reporting underground, make whistleblowers more determined, and force legal action that the Pentagon is almost certain to lose. It's a power play, not a policy. The timing matters. When governments tighten control over defense reporting, it usually means they're preparing for something bigger, something they don't want the public to know about yet. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern. Every major conflict or scandal in modern history has been preceded by information control. Here's the bottom line. If this pledge sticks, it sets a dangerous precedent. Today, it's the Pentagon. Tomorrow, it could be the White House, State Department, or any agency. Freedom of the press doesn't die in one blow. It dies in small, quiet agreements like this. But this time, the media isn't bending. They're fighting back. And honestly, that might be the most important story in the country right now.